Welcome to Lost Culture, your one-stop destination for everything pop culture. My name's Aston, and today we're going to do a review and a quick recap for Power Season 3, Episode 6, The Right Decision. Alright, so this episode was really action-packed. I really enjoyed myself for this video. Not for this video, but for this episode. This is one of my favorite TV shows on network. And this episode proves it. Why? I loved how the action was, how the drama was going on. I enjoyed how we will flash back to certain characters at the right moment, so we would know when. It was perfectly the way everything was edited, the scenes they chose, the locations they chose in the episode, everything was amazing. So we're gonna go jump right into the characters. So this week we didn't get to see Tariq, we didn't get to see Julio, we didn't get to see Dre. A lot of our main cast is missing this week. Everybody's missing. All the sidekicks are missing. So we didn't see no Dre, we didn't see no Jukebox, we didn't see Julio, we didn't see we didn't see anybody, no Taj, nobody, no Kanan. Everybody was gone this episode. So this episode was really just based on Ghost, Tommy, Angela, and Tasha, our main four people, and it was all wrapped around Lobos. So let's just jump right into it. So this episode we see that they're actually getting ready to transport Lobos. Lobos is in the car with Greg. We see he's actually agitating Greg. They're just going back and forth. We get to see the Lobos that we all know and love. Lobos is one of the best characters. When he's on the scene, on the show, and on the screen, he steals the camera. The camera has some way of finding his way towards him because all the little antics he does, the things he says, just the way he acts, his personality is amazing. So I'm glad Lobos was back in this episode. And I love the way his character played it off. You see how he was flirting with. We know he was getting transported, and nobody we know every time we see him, he's always an asshole to the cop. He's always flirting with them and doing things like that. So I don't think they found it the least suspicious when they're moving him into the van and everything, and he's just flirting with them, telling them, "Oh, you didn't have it in white," or "Too bad you got picked this job," and he's like, "I pity you for getting picked for this job." I think he was trying to warn Greg. I think he actually did feel kind of not Greg, but I think he actually felt kind of bad for Greg. I feel like Lobos, maybe he felt like he could actually turn Greg or something in the future, but since Greg was picked on this detail, he really didn't have a choice. Everybody must go. So when we see that going on, we see Greg is really not really flirting back. I don't want to say he's flirting back, but Greg really gets into it and plays back with him and tells him look, I picked this job. I wanted this job, so that's why I'm here. And hey, so it didn't turn out too good for Greg as we see. Well, it turned out good for Greg, but hey. So we see the van is going on the road. We see Tommy and Ghost. They're planning to actually do the job. We see Tasha just randomly shows up to Ghost's house, and the way everything is going on, we see Ghost and Tommy just talking, trying to figure everything out. And Tommy brought in Tasha by himself. We see Greg is not Greg. Ghost is why did you get her involved? We don't need her involved. This is too many witnesses. And so with that, basically it makes her want to join even more, it seems like. And she gets to be Miss St. Patrick's again. So we know she always down for that. So she does that. We see they get to go. Ghost is back at home with Tasha. They're openly discussing it. Where are all the kids at when they're just openly discussing killing a man, or how they're going to kill a person, and the fact that Holly is dead now? I don't think the kids got too close to her, or even really knew her for that fact. I think the only time we ever seen Holly inside the house was when Holly was at lunch with just I think it was dinner. I don't think the kids was present for that first dinner in season 1. But so I don't see Holly's death actually affecting the kids too much more. So that shouldn't be an issue. The thing I think will affect little Tariq is the way that Tommy's going to be behaving. And if Ghost does move back into the house, I feel like that's going to kind of throw the kids off too. I don't feel like Tariq is just gonna go back to being normal with it. It's as this last week we were in your girlfriend's house. Now this week you're back home. Like I feel like Ghost should probably go back on his own again if he's not going to get back with Angela, which I felt really bad for Angela. Like let's talk about that. Angela in this episode, Ghost is telling her, well, Tasha is telling her she loves him, well she loves her. Tasha like is making sure that Ghost is staying clean, like making sure she thinks Ghost is doing his job. And like we see like their relationship is actually like not perfect, but they're bonding again. The way they're like having sex at the beginning of the episode, the way they were talking to each other again, they were actually beginning to connect and everything. And it seemed like they were finally making it work. Just so at the end of the episode, when Ghost walks out, it had that much more like feelings to it because we got to see like everybody that was voting for Ghost and Angie, which I personally have been going for. I actually like the relationship, I like the dynamic. And we see like her, she's telling him like, I'll do anything for you. I thought Ghost was just testing her. He's getting ready to tell her that he's back selling drugs again. But we see he's testing her. Like we see he said all this stuff to her like, I'll do anything for you. I'll do what I did again for you. I don't care about anything. I just want to be with you. We're working. I feel like that was her actually accepting him being a drug dealer, him being a murderer, him in general. She doesn't care about this high school image she had of him anymore. She had finally accepted Ghost and James St. Patrick into one person. She accepted the whole package at that moment. So when he walks out, it feels like, me personally, I feel like she lost both of them. She, at that moment, in her heart, she accepted Ghost and James. And when he told her we're living a fantasy and we can't be and walked out, that crushed her. And oh my, like, I felt so bad for her. Like the cry face, she might have one of the ugliest cry faces I've seen in a while. Like, oh, I felt so bad. And then like the dry heaping and everything she was doing, and Ghost is just standing outside the door. Like the imagery they use, like Ghost obviously loves her. We see that. Ghost wants to be with her. And we see that wall right there, kind of like shadowing, like not shadowing, just like for the imagery, like his heart wants to be with her, but that door is blocking him. There's always something there which is stopping his heart from truly being with her. Which at that moment I feel like he could have opened that door and walked back in and everything would have been okay. So like that's kind of imagery I got from there. Like that door is a wall that he's personally putting up himself. He could have opened that door up and walked back in. He could have basically tore the wall down at that moment and just been open with her about it. But he chose not to be. And we know this is a Ghost character. Ghost going there would have been like kind of against his character. I understand that. We know Ghost, he's more of a handle things on his own. Like, he's more of an introvert. He's more the type of guy who will handle everything on his own. So in that moment, I did believe the scene, but I just felt like it was a lot of emotions going on. It was very very heart-wrenching right there. Heart-wrenching right there. That was a very deep scene right there. And another time we see Angela, and like we're talking about Angela right now. Like Angela, we see when Greg gets hurt. Even though she's angry at Greg, she doesn't like the way Greg is behaving or the way Greg carries himself. At that same moment, she wouldn't want Greg to be hurt, wouldn't want Greg to be killed or anything like that. Which we got to see that earlier in the season when Greg told her, if you tell James that I'm following him, he's going to kill me, and you know that. So we see she didn't tell James that Greg was actually following her. And like now we really see like Angela had like a really emotional like episode this week. It was very, very hard for her. And it's, oh my, like I felt so bad for Angela in this episode. She's not like one of my favorite characters, but she's kind of like attachment to one of my favorite characters. Like James is one of my favorite characters. I think even though we don't see too much of Drake, he might actually be my favorite character, but I'll go on more about that some other time. We're back on the main character we're talking about today. So Angela she had an amazing arc this episode. We see her, like it is just so much going on for her. And we see her trying to she's battling with herself inside to see if, once we say everything's going down with Lobos, we see she's in there. It's like, could James be behind this? He told me he was going away today, but is there any chance that he's involved with this? So we see her texting him, and she's struggling. Like, she doesn't want him to think that she doesn't trust him. So we see her like re-editing her text messages. We see she's trying to go out, like come at him the right ways to where it isn't a fight or anything. And we see her struggling with that. Once she finally like gets the right text built, she sends it off, and they just have a nice little like loving conversation about nothing, which isn't a bad thing. And but the whole time, like we all know, this is Tasha on the other side of the phone. So like, well, for this episode, we see Tasha she's getting pulled back into the business. She was already in the business for Tommy, but now she's getting back pulled in for James, a person she doesn't like. We see when she walked in the room, she's like, "Oh, y'all back friends again, just overnight." Nobody tells her what initially happens, but we see when they get into the next scene, when they're all in the houses talking and eating and everything, we see that she's like, "Dang, it's my." Like, she feel like it's her fault that she told Holly to tell Tommy. Oh, I'm sorry. She doesn't even. I'm thinking about it right now. She doesn't even think Holly's dead. So nobody even told Tasha that Holly is dead. She just think that Tommy and Holly broke up. Ghost couldn't bring himself to tell her. He doesn't think. I feel like he's protecting Tommy when he didn't tell Tasha what happened, because obviously Tasha knew about Holly being pregnant, and we see that's the first thing she goes to. Like, dang, I shouldn't have told Holly to tell Tommy that she's pregnant. This is my fault that this relationship is messed up, and now I gotta kind of find a way to fix it. But which we all know, there really is no way to fix it due to what really happened. So only time we'll figure out how this is gonna turn out for Tasha and Tommy. Like, I feel like that's gonna go bad because Holly was pregnant with Tommy's kid. Holly was kind of like building a real rapport with Tasha. We see Tasha and Holly was actually starting to bond. The relationship was starting to develop a lot more. Both of them hated Ghost, and I'm pretty sure that's where it really was rooted. I'm pretty sure that's where it was rooted at, but we never know how that's going to turn out. And that was an amazing. Like, I think it was very amazing. Just like the face she gave, like, oh, I shouldn't have told her to tell Tommy about the relationship, about the baby. And we see in that moment, Ghost is hit because Tommy didn't know about the baby, so he never had the chance to tell Ghost. And Ghost knows what really happened to Tommy. Not Tommy, but to Holly. So we see, like, James sits back and, like, he sinks into it deep himself and he feels bad for what Tommy has done. Like I said, James had nothing to do with what happened between Holly and Tommy, but in that moment when he heard about that kid, that right there was enough to where he, like, even through everything that me and Holly been through, I felt bad for that baby, and I felt bad that Tommy killed his child and his, like, fiance, girlfriend, wherever she was. And we see that's really kind of like getting the Ghost. Now, going further with Tasha, we see Tasha, she's walking into the hotel with Ghost. I didn't understand why Ghost, I understood why Ghost brought her. It makes sense. But in the future, if James really planned on doing business with this lady, she would have been threw off when Angela starts showing up. He's like, oh, this isn't the wife I met at the hotel. So therefore, James is already in a bad predicament this whole episode. Like, he was kind of messed up when he actually even brought her to the series. I don't know why he did that, but hey, each his own. So we see Tasha, she's in a hotel. We see she's enjoying herself. Obviously, it's been a while since she's actually been able to be to these high-end hotels. She's able to eat, just order room service, do whatever she wants. And even at the beginning, when they walk up to it kind of reminds me of like season 1, like the first episode when we see James and Tasha walk up to the club. Now we seeing them walking up to this beautiful mansion, or it was a beautiful mansion. I guess it's a hotel. So when they walk into this hotel, it's beautiful. We see the roses out front, the Rolls Royce. We see we see all the vehicles out front, and she's like, "Remember our honeymoon?" and blah blah blah. And I forgot what James said, but that instantly just ruined the mood. And she even comments to them, like, in typical Ghost fashion, Cause she really don't really fuck with Ghost on that end. And I don't think he was trying to do it being romantic. He was just trying to do it as like a business type thing. So yeah. Moving on, like we see she's in the hotel, she's enjoying I was kind of threw off at first. We see she's on the bed, I heard the shower running in the background. I honestly thought Ghost was there taking a shower until we see like when room service came in. And I knew, like once the room service came and the shower was running, like it connected like immediately that Ghost wasn't there. But until like we seen who it actually was, it kind of threw me off. I was wondering like why the hell is Tommy? I thought it was Tommy, or I either thought it was Tommy or I thought Angela just randomly decided to show up. I'm like, why the hell did Tommy just show up? But we see just like room service, she ordered food and she's like purposely going out of her way to be like, oh, my husband's in the shower, my husband's asleep, can you please come do his shoes? So we see she's purposely doing things to ensure that people get the sense that he's there. And we also get we also see he left his phone there, so he also having communication with his girlfriend. People are hearing that, oh, he's in the building, he made plans to be in the building. I'm pretty sure there's some cameras though that are connected to this. I know a lot of people had theories that the business partner he was working with was actually going to be like Stein again. I don't really see Stein. I think Stein might end up falling back into it. Like at last minute, Stein's probably going to come in and undercut Jamie for like the little property or something. But other than that, I don't really see Stein being too involved with James' aspects of his clubs. I don't see James losing control of his clubs again. And that's not really too much of an issue. So with that, and we see, like, I feel like there was gonna be some cameras watching him sneak out and sneak back in, but I don't know. I've never been to a hotel of that magnitude. Maybe they do have like very high privacy standards, but I don't know. So going on to the next person. Oh, and we see when Tasha, like, she's getting the shoes waxed, we see Tasha actually comes against the divorce. It must actually be divorce papers, because when she is talking to him, even though we know that last episode James, like, he was very like precise that he wanted separation papers, not divorce papers, because of the situation. But Angela and Tasha makes it seem like they're actually going through a full-blown divorce. When you gave the papers to Angela like, oh my, you have a chance to blah blah blah, you'll do this for me. And then Tasha, oh, if you initiate this divorce, you lose half, and I have no problem taking half. And see, Ghost shuts that down, which is her fault. But we see her, like, she's ready for the money. She hears divorce, and first thing she thought about was money, which is like, that's like my main issue with Tasha. Like, I understand a lot of people will say, oh, that's his wife, she deserves half, but she helped him build the business. How much of the business did she really help build? We know when she met Ghost, he was already a drug dealer. He was already in these streets. I'm pretty sure he probably already owned the drug business as it is. It may have not been as big as it was, but it was already blooming. He could have got another dirty accountant. He doesn't need her, and she didn't even get finished. So it's not like she had expert level like advice for him. She probably has like some ground level. It was helpful, obviously, but he could always replace her with another person. I'm just saying. So I don't think she deserved half. Maybe she does deserve to get broken off with some money, but I don't think she deserve half. She don't need to be in a penthouse, obviously. Maybe we'll see, like in last episode when her divorce lawyer was talking about there should be, in some marriages, there's like 3 homes or something like that. One the wife owns, one the husband owns, and one for like the family. Certain days of the week, the father's there, the mother's there, and something like. Maybe they might pull off something like that, because we know in Power, when they say things or they mention things, it sometimes like it actually has a meaning. So with that being said, now that we see Ghost left Angela and Ghost left, he basically told Tasha she's not getting money since she was involved in the murder. She couldn't tell Angela about it because she was helped. Like, she helped do the murder. So there's no way of Ghost going down without Tasha going down. So hey, she's an accessory to the fact. So, yeah, and and the only person to look at about that is her. She wants to be so conniving to Ghost and go against him so much and like being part of the drug game. She lost out on all this money because she wanted to be overzealous, and like she kind of screwed herself in my personal opinion. Obviously, she's still going to get money and things of that nature. She's still going to be taken care of because she is the mother of his children. She's probably going to be taking care of them most of the time. So obviously, she's still going to get some money. She's still going to have perks of being his baby moms. But other than that, she kind of ruined, like she screwed herself for being involved in this plot, which he didn't even want her involved in. Now moving on to Mike. So we see Mike is really anxious this episode. I don't understand how Mike hasn't been getting caught. He's so sloppy and it doesn't make sense. So we see Mike is telling everybody to move. He's trying to make reasons why they should have so little security on it. We see he's like, oh, you shouldn't do that, blah, 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 you shouldn't do that. And like, look, Lobos is dead, so we shouldn't move it and everything. And oh my God, like I don't understand how Mike can catch it. Like we see when they're actually on the move, and he's texting under I don't know if he was texting. He was texting. It said OTW on the way. So on the move. I don't think it said W. It was an M. It said on the move, and we see he sent that text out. We see once they're over the feed, and we hear like all this stuff is going down. He's not really too worried about it. Like he's like, hold up, we shouldn't send security, or he said they should send security. We see Angela gets worried. She walks out of the room. Nobody thought that was suspicious that Angela walks out the room. Well, it probably did. So that we'll probably see that play into next episode when we see all this stuff going down. We see her walk out the room. We see Mike is still there, but once Mike leaves, we see he's getting phone calls, trying to figure out where Lobos is. We see, in that scene, in that breakout scene was so amazing. I'm sorry to go away from but when we're in there, we see everything's going down. We see the two, I forget, the two Hispanic guys that Tommy was with. We see these guys are paid like mercenaries. They are on it. We see them walking, even the way they're carrying their weapons, the way they were obviously like military trained. Like, they're some type of militia. Cause we see the way they're walking, the way they're firing, just like they're formed with everything. They're very precise. They really didn't like flagging each other like when you like, if somebody you're friendly with in a war combat zone, you like point your weapon at them. They weren't flagging each other like that. They weren't doing too much. They were actually very precise. They moved to their objectives. They hit everything perfectly. They were very controlled with their gunfire. They were amazing. Like that scene was like amazing. I don't know who trained those extras or trained those people. And they might actually wouldn't have got real like militia people, but not real militia people, but some people who actually kind of like understand like military tactics. So, but those actors were amazing when they were doing all those like spots and everything. So we see they're basically taking headshots. We see they're trying to get the one guard. He's using the protected door, and why? So they got armored doors, but not armored glass. That threw me off. That was, yeah. So no bulletproof glass. We just have bulletproof doors. Because soon that bullet hit that glass, it took that guard's head off. The other guard, he came around that corner so reckless. Even though he's FBI, he did not seem like too. Obviously, I'm taking it too literal. But when he hit that corner, he was asking to get shot. And whoever was hitting them, they knew exactly where to aim at. They hit him right there, like right where the armor was not protecting. They didn't hit him in the head. And one thing that bothered me about this though was Greg. Like we see Greg kind of like, he don't think he panicked, but he stayed with the prisoner. We see he's trying to control the situation, but we see he's not really like, I wish I would have seen Greg go out a little bit more action. We see when he goes out, he is shooting at the one guy. They actually kill one of them. But we see that Tommy even looked amazing when he's out there shooting. And Tommy though, Tommy and these goddamn Tims. Tommy wear the same Tims for everything. Like, oh my, and that's probably when we would get them caught. Like Lobos said, they're leaving evidence everywhere. And when Greg got shot, I was like, oh, like I feel like we know they've been doing headshots this whole time. If they wanted to kill Greg, they should have did a headshot away. I'm sorry about that, but so when we see the weapon when Greg gets shots, the way he gets jerks and bounce up against the wall is amazing. Like, I love the way that they did that. Like, he actually did pretty good acting right there. We get to see also in this episode when what else happened. So when we see all that is going on, so when Greg when Greg gets shot and he bounces against the wall is amazing. Like, I love the way they did that. We see he's just sliding down the side of the van. We see the blood start coming out of his mouth, and they just leave him there. We see he's just looking around. He's trying to like understand what's going on. And at that moment, I feel like he was gonna recognize Tommy. We see Tommy wearing those boots. Tommy just wears those boots everywhere. I have no idea why Tommy stays those same Tims. Tommy loves those Tims. And with that being said, like, we see Greg survives. We see Angela that kind of tears from him, and Sax actually tells Greg about that later on in the episode when Greg's actually trying to blame Angela for, like, we know they knew too much about us. They knew to come in. They knew to cut the GPS. They knew what route. They knew what van. They knew when to hit us and knew how to hit us. So Greg is basically telling everybody we have a mole inside the office. We are, it's Angela, and that's when Sax tells like it's not Angela. She actually was kind of worried when you killed. Like, was it believable? So I think Greg actually feels like he got a shot again. I don't know what's wrong with Greg. Greg just got shot and he's thinking about Bud again. And Mike is the whole time trying to tell everybody, look, calm down. Everything they did was normal. They got to our convoy. They cut off the GPS. We normally use GPSs on all our people. So that's everything we've done was just doing normal practices, which is like by the book. So you don't need a mole to understand what was going on. But so I just don't understand how you don't know that Mike's the one yet. Like, Mike's been doing so much stuff that I think Sax might connect it before Angela does, because Sax knows, like, oh, the evidence got sent back to all the precincts. He knows Angela couldn't do it because it was above her, and Angela wasn't even on the case at the time. So that might be the one thing that saves Angela from, like, being a prime suspect. And then Mike leaves and he tracks a burner. How did Mike know about the burner? Like, these are things that doesn't make sense to me. Like, it makes sense to me, but as far as his co-workers, and how are they questioning all these things? Like, how did you know he had a burner? How did you know to go to that location and everything? So all these things is what, like, messing with me. And we get the sense that Lobos' whole cartel basically is gonna fall apart when it's here. Cause we see when he's like surrounded by Ghost and Tommy, he starts lying like, oh, I have your white flowers, talking about Holly. We all know Holly's dead. I have your DEA agent. Once I'm dead, my inside guy is gonna kill her. So we see Ghost is trying to like think about it, like, no, and Tommy's like, we need to kill him now. The phone rings, and that's when Tommy has second thoughts. It's because of the evidence part of it. And we know Lobos was planning on killing Tommy anyway, so they had to do it. We know Lobos was gonna kill Tommy, and since I guess Tommy had told Lobos that he had killed Ghost, which is weird to me. Like, why would Lobos not know that Ghost is not dead yet? It's just that right there kind of bothers me. But besides that, everything was turning out good. We see like Lobos pointed out, you guys are purposely, Ghost is leaving a lot of evidence just so they can point it towards you, but it doesn't make sense because Ghost footprints were there too. But yeah, And so we see like Lobos is dead now. I feel like we're gonna miss him. I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna miss him. But in that moment though, I feel like this is gonna get tied back to James. Cause we see when Lobos and James are fighting, we see that the handcuffs are all over his neck. It might be a chance there's saliva from James on there. We don't see any like cuts or anything, any cuts or bruises. So obviously there's no blood or anything, but there's always a chance that there could be like some type of DNA agent that rubbed on to Lobos during that little scuffle. But yeah. Now moving on back to Ghost and Tommy. So in this episode, we get to see James. He's really working out on everything. We see he's bonding a lot with Angela this episode. They're working out really well. I enjoyed that aspect of the beginning of the episode. We see that the whole time they're talking about, oh, we can stay up all night, we can sleep during the day. And this bothered me. I'm like, Ghost is like really big like on his kids. So now I'm like, where did the kids come in? He didn't say anything about the kids. He said flying around the country, going to the clubs at night, and sleeping during the day. Well, children is normally awake during the day. So when do you plan on bringing the children on into this thing? And are you and Angela gonna have a family or anything? But that doesn't really matter. They haven't spoken about that at all anyway. But it's like things like that kind of bother me with James' characters, because we know James is like a very big family man. That's one thing that I always press. Like, if something happens to his children, he's always there for them. So that was bothering me with that scene. And one of my favorite parts though was a little joke like Ghost made about the I forgot the exact wording he used for like the type of law, and we see it's obviously the wrong type of law that Angela practices, and they're just like a joke and they laughed about it. And is that on like we see their sex scene, they obviously had chemistry again. It wasn't how we've been seeing like the sex scenes this season. And yeah, moving on to Tommy, we see Tommy. He's very torn up. Like I call this. I felt like Tommy was gonna be torn up after he killed Holly. We see he's actually visiting a grave site. He just isn't him. We see he's not himself at all. And we see when he's at the house with Tasha, when Ghost he said, "Hey Tasha, you got any food?" That's kind of like a throwback to like just his old character. But we see this isn't the same. He's standing off by himself. He's normally in the mix. It's normally Tasha and Tommy having a conversation while Ghost is off on his own doing something like some introvert type stuff. And so we see. I was glad to see it was different. At this time, it was actually Ghost and Tasha talking while Tommy's off in the back, basically contemplating what's going on and everything, and how he feels about the situation. And that's really all we have to see for Tommy. This episode, like we see he's in there like doing all of his little like, militia stuff with the save Lobos. We see he kind of came up with a plan to get Lobos. We see that he's still like damaged from the whole situation with Holly. Obviously, that's gonna carry on to the rest of the end of the episode. I feel like with that, he's gonna get even more reckless with the death of Holly. But I feel like as far as the drug business, it's gonna get tamed down. I feel like him being back with Ghost is gonna start fixing things. But yeah, and the big thing of the big reveal of the episode was Dean. We all know who Dean is now. We know he was part of his security, and we know he was. Well, I'm actually gonna save Dean for later. I'll move on. That's gonna be part of my power move of the week. So my ups for the thing I liked about this week. I'm sorry, I don't know why I can't get things out. So my ups this week is I liked how like I said, they were breaking out Lobos. The jailbreak scene was amazing. That's like my favorite scene of this. I love the scenery they chose for the Lobos grave. That was like a very like beautiful place. I love the way it looked, how it was like kind of off the map, like not really touched by man. I love that. Like my downs for this episode was really by Ghost. I didn't like the way that Ghost was making plans without thinking about his family and things of that nature. So that was like my one thing I didn't like. I feel like that went up against his character, and that was my down. And for my power move of the week, it goes to Dean / Malon. Everybody knows who he is. Like, we've heard about him. We know, like, the Serve. He actually worked for him in season 2. That's who his connect was. And he's like, I can't cross him. Like, he eats people. So we know this dude is crazy. We know his team is really about it. We see he just pulls up and kills everything. And when he tells Ghost who he is, we see basically he already knows how James works. He knows the codes to everything. He knows the family. And James is caught off guard. He tells him, like, look, you were so worried about, like, Lobos and everything going on in your personal life that you didn't even see me coming in and doing all this. And it's kind of, I really didn't like it. I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time. Because we already seen this happen again last episode. So they're basically recycling the same plots for season 3, which they did do perfectly. I must say that. Like, I love the way they did it. Now we see Ghost is forced into working for someone again, same way he was last season. But as I said, I like the way they did it. I like how they introduced this character. I like how it was confusing me though. It was a little confusing when he pulls out the Jimenez card. I thought the Jimenez was a Mexican cartel. I didn't think it was the Serve. I didn't think he was like Serbian. But I might be mixed up. Get into the comment section. Let me know if I'm confused on that section. Did he bring Ghost the card, or was that his calling card for when he killed people? I thought Jimenez was a Mexican cartel. So is he Mexican? He's Hispanic, or? Let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments. I got to say it, I could be wrong, but I feel like he told Ghost that was his calling card. Like that's his style. But we know last season they said that was his Jimenez style. But yeah, like this episode was amazing, and I don't see this like turning out too well. And another thing about James, when James said Tariq ran away, obviously that's gonna like somebody that's gonna come out and find out that's gonna be a lie to Angela. Angela's gonna find out, and I feel like Angela's willing to protect Ghost. She might come under fire, or we're saying she will come under fire in the previews for next episode. But besides that, I think this is a great second part of the season. This is episode 6 now, yeah. So we're more than halfway done now. 4 episodes left. I want to see how they're gonna tie this season in. I don't see the Serve actually dying before this season ends. I feel like this is a new connect, and I want to see what's gonna happen like with Dre and Kanan and everything coming back in. And we see this. We see Maylene tells Ghost, "Don't worry about your family. Don't worry about you. Don't worry about anything. Basically, you are well protected from now on. Like from here on, you are well protected. You're safe." I don't know if he meant from him or just in general, but I want to turn out because Kanan's coming back, so we gotta see how that's gonna turn out for Kanan. We know Kanan is basically a danger for Ghost. And yeah, so as always, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you guys if I said something wrong, if you guys disagree with some things that I said. And as always, follow us on Instagram at lost_culture. Follow me on Instagram at Saint_Aston, and stay lost.